Okay, all right. So how we're setting up everything is file efficiency, keep low poly count, but we still want to make amazing art pieces look really great. So there's, we've already kind of trained everybody how to use the toolkit, and that's one kind of material where it's a JPEG, where it's, the texture is solid, you put that on a solid board. But there's another trick that you guys can do in your world that I will show you now. It's the proper way to use PNG files. Now PNG files are just, for those who don't know, those are just like JPEGs, except for they have an alpha channel. And I'll explain how that works. An alpha channel allows you to pass data through a texture file, so it basically makes it see-through. So instead of having a bunch of detail and then a white space, a PNG will say, we'll have all this detail, and then you can look through that. It makes things transparent. So here is the David Best temple from 2014. And to look at this, you would think this was made by hundreds of thousands of polygons. Just looking at all the detail right here, it looks like there's just all these little polygons here, and it just looks like it's just insanely high detail. But the truth is, this model is about 5,000 polygons. It's relatively a low detail. And the trick to that is, instead of, like right here, you see this wood right here. Let's see. This is a solid material that's not a PNG, it's just a solid texture. If I put that here, you see that turned that wall flat, because that's not a PNG. This one, however, I'm going to select right here, is made by, let's open that right here. And you can see it's kind of like a stencil. So if you have something that's like a wire mesh in your worlds that you don't have to individually model each individual piece of wire. You can have a flat plane with a repeated wire mesh texture. So if we go and we look at this, let's look at this file in Photoshop so you can get a little bit better sense of what it is. All right, let's open that up to, where's my Photoshop right here? See what I'm saying here? It just passes through. And this is, you use this as a PNG. Now you've got to be careful of PNGs because they can be rather large file size. So it's a very careful balance. But this is a trick that I wanted to show you guys, especially because there's going to be some very intricate art pieces coming in. Worked with the Kate's piece Helios, that was a 2 million polygon model, but I managed to make it down to a 5,000 polygon model using PNG. So that's a trick that is going to help you guys out. Probably won't be able to implement many PNGs on your low poly on Playa model, the 5,000 polygon model that's going to, but this would be more effective in your guys' worlds. So is everybody following along with what I just said? Everybody feeling comfortable, educated, inspired? I need a thumbs up from everybody so that everybody knows. And if they don't, we want questions. This only works if everybody comes out educated. So, okay, there is that. And I think that we went through that a little bit faster than I expected. So now we're going to go into lighting. Now, I'm going to start you guys off. If you guys make your camps, your art pieces, your own individual worlds, and you just bake the ground, the shadowing on the ground, I think that's going to be wonderful. Baking and UV mapping your camps and the sides of your walls, we can give you some of the instructions on how to do that correctly. But that's a tough battle to fight. So in Blender, which I'm hoping everybody is still good and solid and learning how to use, what we're going to teach you is how to bake the ground in Blender. All right, so everybody comfortable with the fact that this is already open? This is already ready to go? Everybody knows how I got to this point already? Any questions? Okay. All right. Sorry if I'm looking over. I've got my main screen here, but I'm looking at you guys right here and my monitor over here. So, all right. So here is our textured world once it boots up a little bit faster right here. Wheel of death right here. All right, let's see where I'm at. Okay, so right now it's lit dimly. What we want to do if we're going to bake the lighting, step one is, and this is also going to show you why these little light objects, does anybody have a chance to play with these or start arranging these in their world, these light pieces right here? These all have an emissive property, so if you put it next to something, it kind of illuminates around. I'll show you exactly how to, what that does right here. So we have our layout right here. Now I want you to look over to the right side of your Blender, right here. Everybody kind of familiar with right here? You're gonna find an icon that looks like the back of a DSLR camera. And that's your render properties right here. Everybody see that? This is where you can adjust your render engine. So what you're gonna wanna do is click on that. So these are all the different things. And I highly recommend going in and kind of exploring a little bit what these do. But for this, you wanna be in your render and you wanna be able to have your render engine. There's all these different render types, and this is kind of the basis one is EV. What you wanna do is change it to cycles, right here. So look for your DSLR camera, render engine, and put it to cycles. And in a second, we're gonna see it start doing its magic. There we go. Takes a little bit to render. It's gonna be a little bit.
Now, what happens if they appear pink at first?
Oh, a pink at first. Yeah, you gotta, let's see, how do I break that so I can fix it? You've got to create a new material. Okay, how many people are having that problem that are completely stuck on it? All right, I guess okay. Do we stop?
S is having a problem. He's talking.
Yeah, you have to, all right, okay, we'll pause that just for a second.
Wow, that's nice baking though.
Yeah. So what you do quick is, all right, try to figure out how to show people how to build a material from scratch. All right, that might be something we need to discuss on a different one, how to fix that, because that might get me a little bit off track of that. But basically, build your own material and apply it to the object. This is basically as complicated of a material as you need right here. But basically, let's see. Oh, that's right. Okay, here we go. You add thinking the material. We'll get to that one. Let's not get too far off track.
I ran into that same issue with having trouble creating materials when I was doing some stuff earlier today.
Yeah, I know how to do it. It's second nature in my end. I'm trying to figure out the proper way to do things in Blender. And
I might have messed it up, but what I did was I went into that window, and where it said File 2, I selected the light grid file, and then it wasn't pink anymore.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so this is your file right here, and you press this little folder here, and that brings you back to the BRCvr texture file. You reconnect that and put it in the base color right here. That should fix it. So yeah, I've been hearing that a couple of times, so I'll put some documentation online for that one.
I have another question along those lines. Is that if I make my own object, say like I have a platform, but I want to apply your wood texture to it, yeah, similar. I don't know how to get, because your texture map is that whole beach there. I don't know how to get just the specific wood. So, yeah, if you want to do a session on textures and those sorts of things.
Let's just do that real quick. Right here. Should be right here. Is it defined? Okay. Ah, that's right. Okay. Yeah, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. Okay. So let's do that all over again so that I can show you. Okay, so take your object. Let's create a circle. Oh, not a circle. A cone. Right? There's a cone. Okay. Now with the cone selected, you want to go to your materials property in your corner right here. See that? Everybody see that right here? With that, you go to the drop down, I think, yeah, right here. This drop down right here. And these are all the different materials that are in the scene. We have all the different 4 playas that we had up here. This is the main toolkit. This is interior camp lighting. This is the one with the emissive. This is the LOD, and this is your default material. So click that, and it applies that material. Then you have to go into UV mapping, which is not my forte in Blender. It's not too bad, actually. It's not too painful. So what you do is you go into this UV editing tab right here, and you just select the UV maps and move it around like so. And then let's go back to layout, and it looks a little different. So there's a little bit more finessing in Blender and UV mapping, and that's like a quick and dirty version of it right there. Like I said, not a Blender artist or my artist. So, all right. So does that kind of get some of the questions? So yeah, if you want to apply material, go here, go here. Your material properties at the bottom of this list, and then you have this drop-down menu here, and just click on the different materials that you want to do. That's also probably how you reconnect a lot of materials as well. So, okay, let's get back into. Let's get into it. Let's get a nice shading of your ground. All right. So right here we have ground. Everybody ready for this next step? Okay. So there's the default light that you see way up here in the scene. Right here. You see how it's affecting everything you put in the scene. See how it moves around, you kind of get some. Okay, you see that? Everybody kind of see how this works? Let's get rid of that and replace it with something cooler. So delete that. Now we're at black. This actually does give me a good opportunity to show you what these do. All right, let's get in close to my light sources. Now let's switch our render engine. So everybody notice back here, we're going back into our render properties right here. Switch this to cycles. Let it go for a second. It's got to kind of do its thing. Now these objects are all illuminating a light. And that light is kind of these particles that bounce around. So it kind of bounces around these phony protons. So when you see here, it kind of illuminates the light. Now, what you want to do is when you do a bake, kind of take these images in Photoshop and kind of blur them. But see right here, these aren't lights. These are just objects with an emissive property that are kind of spreading out the color. So when you put these on the ground, this will light you're seeing kind of like this. So does everybody kind of understand what these are for and what these are used for? Right here, Yeah, see, it just gives a little bit of a nice kiss of light on everything. So, with that said, let's add a real light. So what you do is up here in the left, you see this toolbar right here, object mode, view, select, add an object. Click add. There's a lot of things you can add in this. This is a powerful little button right here. Check this out. This is all the things you can add. What we want to add is a light. Not just any light, kind of an auto sunlight that automatically kind of has properties of the sun. So everybody know right there, add lights.
I don't think Greg is freezing. I think it's just you're seeing the.
Yeah. This is just it's rendering this in real time on a laptop that I'm running 4 monitors on. So it's a little. Now I'm curious. This works like this in Blender.
That's it. Yeah, it's baking. It's sort of live baking though. That's what all those little grids are.
So cool thing, it works in Blender. I was hoping it worked in Blender. It works in Maya. When you make a sunlight, when you rotate it, not only does it make your shadows, but it also kind of gives you an ambient light that matches what the dusk and the dawn would actually look like. So you notice how it's a little darker here. Everybody see my screen? So if you want your high noon, it's going to be high noon and super bright, right? But this is the sunlight over here. If you put it down where it's lower in the horizon, see how it automatically changes everything to kind of feel like dusk. That's a really kind of fun effect. It's really easy. So it's really easy just to bang out and do different times a day. So we have sunlight. Now let's bake the ground. All right, so what you want to do, this is the important part, but we'll also add the links to how you do this in other ways. So now that you have cycles applied, right? There's only 2 or 3 steps that you need to do to bake. So what you do is go back up to this toolbar right here. Right here. Click shading. Please don't crash on me. There we go. Okay. All right, so we're in our shading tab, right? All you have to do, add your shader tab right here. Add an image texture. So go into your shading tab and they'll give you this view right here. Go add texture, image texture. That'll put it, so this is your shading properties on the ground that I have selected. This is just adding a new image slot. And what you want to do is create new image. So I clicked right here, I added a new, and I named it ground plane. Everybody following along? Are we good? Everybody good? All right, so yeah, that's all that was right there. So you do a ground plane. Then you go back up here to your render settings. Remember the DSLR camera? Let's go back to layout so we kind of see what we're doing. I'll go back to take a second to re-render. All right, now that you have your DSLR tab right here, there's this little thing right here that says bake. Open that up. And I think there we go. Yeah, hit selected to active. I think it's doing what it needs to do. Is it baking it? Yes, okay, I think it's working. Yeah, okay. Oh man, that might take a little.
Maybe turn off those black lines. They're driving me crazy. It's an OCD thing. I mean, I don't know.
There you go. Okay. So this might take a little bit. It was doing it within like 5 minutes before. Something's going on that's like making it super fast, but I have a feeling I'm pulling in. So, well, let's go. And I think it's only going to take a minute or two. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Unmute and just speak them up.
And also, we're also figuring out the lesson programming for the next week. So we kind of want to know where everybody is at and what people would like to. Gene.
Can you go back to creating that image texture and what happens there?
Okay, well, all you have to do is put the image texture in the shader tab of that object and just name it. And then once you bake here, it'll put that image in there. So I can redo that again once it's done baking, because right now it's baking. So I can re-show you guys how to do that once this bake is done. I did it like 4 times just before this class, and it only took like a minute or two, so I'm curious.
Okay, well, I think I got it. So could you show me where to bake again?
Bake is you look at the, you go into your DSLR tab thing that's called render properties. And you switch your render engine to cycles.
Okay.
Right down here, there's a bake tab. You just open up bake. And when you have an object selected, you go selected to active, and then it's a bake.
And are we supposed to select all the objects in the camp or just the ground?
So for now,
I'm getting this error, the uninitialized image file from rope lights. Sorry, I interrupted.
For now, like that's an aesthetic thing. So if you want to go down that rabbit hole, what you have to do is you take all of your objects in your camp. And I know how to do this in Maya perfectly. Unity tries to do it as an easy way, and it makes things kind of really inefficient. I don't like it. Blender, I'm not sure exactly the steps, but basically what you do is this is all one UV map. You know, this is all one kind of version of a UV map where everything's mapped in a model. What you want to do is create a second UV map where nothing is repeated on top of each other. So it's like a lot of these objects that you're going to be using are all using the UV map on top of each other, like a bunch of the metal bars are all on top of each other in the UV map. But if you make a second one for every object as your object is spread out amongst the UV map, everything will be unique. So if you make a second UV map, you bake to that UV map and you add that into Unity, because Unity has 2 slots available in some of the shading. One can be just your texture and the other can be your shadow map. So it's a little complicated and a little tricky, and I'm just trying to get, I think if most people have a good bake on the ground, they'll be okay. But to try to teach people how to make a second UV map might be a little tricky. But if you want to go there, that'll really cherry out your camp. But I would recommend you do it. We might try to get another class with somebody that can teach people how to do it in Unity, kind of as a turnkey. The problem is sometimes in Unity, when they do it, it's not very efficient and it makes massive files, which is why I don't do it that way. But there is a way to do it in Unity that's just kind of, you just click on your objects and go, assign UV map, shadow maps for all my objects, do it automatically, but it's not very efficient. So, okay, we're almost done with the texture map. Hopefully it didn't screw up. Gene, did you have a question?
Yeah, it's related to baking. It's I have experience baking in Unity, but I haven't tried it in Blender. But what I get is for shadows, it appears that objects are not self-shadowing. So I have like a objects that have ribbons, let's say in space, tilt-brush painting, and in when I have a real-time light, it self-shadows. But when I go to baked light, it only casts shadows on the ground. It doesn't self-shadow.
Yeah, that's in Unity. You're gonna want to have a UV map for all your objects, or do that in Blender. But yeah, you're not. You're not. Your shadow map doesn't have its own UV map. So
Its own what?
Its own shadow map. Let me try to find an example. Oh, okay. All right. Oh, we're done with this. So let's take a look at what we did, what was done here. Okay, so let's switch that off. Okay. That didn't seem to look right. It's the other way that I did it. So, all right, so we're gonna go back over. Okay, so texture, image texture, ground plane, and let's do this super small. So okay, there we go. And that should only take a few seconds. All right, in a few minutes, and then I'm going to ditch this, and we're going to go into getting everybody's pieces into Allspace. We're going to do a couple of quick little, like, I'm going to make a quick little camp thing and get that into Allspace. So, all right. Yeah, we need to, I need to get in contact with a couple of people that are more familiar in how to do it differently in Unity. I just never do it in Unity because I just think it's a little too haphazard, and just it's not as efficient as doing it in Maya. So, all right. So how does everybody have? I guess now we're waiting. Everybody has Unity, and everybody has the Altspace uploading package downloaded from the internet. Everybody has.
Yeah.
Okay, and then everybody has their account open and everything, so they're ready to. And has how many people have attempted it so far? Okay, everybody that has the cameras on, and then half of everybody doesn't have the cameras on, so it's tough. No, you haven't. Okay, all right, cool, all right.
Greg, just really quickly with this, with the baking, whenever I selected the ground and added the image texture. And when I hit selected to active, it says that I don't have a valid object selected.
Yeah, it's giving, of course I was able to do it just fine and perfect 4 or 5 times just before class. And then in class, it's not quite doing it the right way. Let's see. I don't have it selected now and it's baking right. So let's just see if selected to active, not having it on is the right way to go. So.
You have a question?
And the tricky thing with baking is it is it's a very big trial and error kind of setup. So, but it's also a subject that is well documented online. But I think if everybody does it in Blender or Maya or 3D Max, they'll be a lot happier with their results than doing it in Unity.
Yeah, I had a couple issues going through the flow from Blender into Unity and into AltSpace.
Okay.
And I guess there's a couple things. One is I wasn't sure what, there was like a BRCvr like asset pack for Blender. And you said there was also like an advanced one. Is that also for Blender or is that for Unity?
It's a bunch of 3D objects that you put into Blender and you kind of set up in Blender. But most of the things for the advanced kit, it's kind of why it's the advanced kit, are for you use shade. It won't really look like it's doing anything in Blender, but the shaders you use in Unity. So it's like double-sided shaders, so that you don't have to model two sides of one object, like a bicycle. We don't want to model both sides of a bicycle. We don't want to put every spoke in a bike. So it's, you know, so we were trying to make those super efficient. So
like a PNG
shader that's free to download elsewhere, that you just apply that and automatically that PNG texture that I just showed everybody just before, automatically makes a bike with just one flat plane look like a bike with tires and spokes, and it's two-sided. So yay, now we are cooking. We have a successful bake, everybody. We baked successfully. Does everybody see my baking, my baked brick material right here? But it won't show up on the main screen because it just made it independently. So this right here, this is my raw texture file. What you do is, I think there might, I'm not going to get into that with this one, but so with your Unity standard shader, there's the texture slot, and then the second, there's the second secondary texture. That's for UV shadow maps, or it's for blending any other two textures together. So think of it, this is the texture map, this is the shadow map. So what I do is I take the color of the ground plane and swap out base color. Run off these. Okay, that is odd that it's not showing up right, but I'm not going to go too far into it, but basically it's not showing up right there, but here is your shadow map. You successfully created a shadow map, and this is the light off of the ropes that we had here. So when you apply this to the ground on your Unity, this file right here, you will have a baked in shadow map. So this is just kind of a quick rough and a rough overview of baking. But there's a couple of videos that we'll put on our Discord. Go and check those out, and you'll have a couple more questions answered. So, but yeah,
Okay.
right
Sounds
here,
good.
you select your grounds.
I have a question. Actually, I have two questions.
Yes.
If I create a custom shader in Unity, can it be used in AltSpace
It should be. You'll have to test. You'll have to test it.
Okay.
Most shaders work. I haven't.
And the second project, currently I'm working with a team and they have an art object. And when you click, it has to play sound, I mean audio. Can it be in AltSpace, or it will be just a 3D model with some shader and that's it?
So we have a couple of ways to make things interactive without the scripting. The scripting issue with AltSpace is very tricky. You can't just upload a Unity package or a Unity file into AltSpace with scripts for interactivity. You have to develop what's called an MRE and go around that. which we're developing, but we're also developing this for many camps and many projects. So it's kind of tricky to rework this. So
I think it will be just 3D object with some shader going on. And
yeah. So if you want to do something that's interactive, that if you come up to something and something happens, is that basically what you want? Is you come up to an object, you get close to an object, and it turns something on? Is basically what your end result is. The last class I went over a solution to that where you turn that object into an LOD setup where when you walk closer to the object, it changes and interacts with your distance to your proximity. So check out that video, and that might be a good solution.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. But as far as interactivity and scripts, that's tricky, especially this late in the game. So, okay. Oh, Doug.
I didn't do that.
Uh-huh.
That's too lowbrow.
Uh-huh, that is so not you. Okay. All right, let's go back over and let's do a quick.
I would have done urination, defecation, maybe upgraded it a little from elementary school.
All right, so what I'm going to do is, okay, let's get rid of that. Come on.
How do I get rid of it? I didn't do it.
Well, what is the benefit of baking in Blender rather than baking in Unity?
Baking in Unity is not as efficient. We're still working on trying to figure out that workflow. We're both me and Doug. There's some people that are doing it better, but it's not as efficient.
What feature is this? Is that a draw on the screen feature? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not. Anyway.
No, I see.
Yes. Okay. So Unity kind of do it. Just plug. You just bring in your file and then hit UV mapping on your file. Right here, I'll show you it here. What you do is you click on your object. Let's see, models. What you can do is just generate light UV maps right here in Unity, and that does everything kind of automatically, but not very efficiently. So what it will do is it'll decide what your UV map is, and if you hit light bake, it could make a huge file that's basically unusable in AltSpace, which is kind of tricky on how you do that. So that's kind of why I'm going, everybody, let's just start from the ground first. Just do a nice, easy bake in Blender and move from there. That's kind of how I'm looking to get that. Kate?
Is a shadow map is the same as a light map, or it's a different thing?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Shadow, yeah.
So to do a shadow map in the Unity, you have just press the check, make a light map when you bake, and that's it, right?
Repeat that again?
You just show a screen with the check, make a light map or something like that. So
Yeah.
it's enough to make a shadow map in Unity, right?
Yeah, it'll automatically do it. The tricky thing is, if you do it that way, it might make your file so big in AltSpace, you kind of want to keep your files around the 40 to 50.
Okay, but can you make the light map just smaller in the size, like low resolution, or?
It's just it's not very efficient on how it arranges your UV map.
I just don't know Blender at all. I am working in 3D Max.
All right, so then in my recommendation, then I would just do a ground bake instead of baking all your objects. Instead of baking, like you guys can see my Unity. If I was to bake the lighting for all of these objects, it would be several gigs. It would just be unusable. That's why on Playa, and here's my, you can see right here, I just baked This is
So
a
how do you bake a one object like the ground?
I just showed it in Blender on there.
Oh,
So
and
this is
find the actual graphic and sorry, where's the because it's a plane.
Yeah, yeah, and then so you have the shadow and you just apply it in. So let's go here. Okay, let's change this to. Okay, so we're changing this to a standard shadow or a standard shader in Unity, right? So here is our shadow map. So we put our shadow map, the bake ply in the secondary map. That's where you're going to want your shadow map. And you put your, okay. So to explain what I just did there, here is your close-up cracked ground, right?
Right.
So what I did was I put that in the main map and repeat it. You can kind of swap these in, but basically your cracked ground will go into your first slot right here. And then you just go into tiling and repeat it hundreds and hundreds of times. That way you can have something that looks really high detail, but it's a relatively small object. But then here in your second map, your secondary maps, you have your shading, and it's just your overall. Everybody kind of see how I've set that up?
Right.
Yeah. That's kind of how you set your ground. That's kind of the direction, how you get, there's not a lot of shading on top of it, on top of other objects. You can kind of get away with it. Mostly in your projects, you want to have shadows on the ground. That'll take you 80% of your sexy look on your playa. So.
Greg.
Okay, so
So questions?
Yeah, this is a really stupid question. I did manage to get the UV, but I actually can't find that texture in the file system. Is there another step to like save it as a file or something?
Okay,
from Blender. Thank you. Sorry, Adelphia.
It's all right. Pretty much what you have to do with a lot of these materials is you select an object, right? And then you go into your shading. Now this is the properties of the material that you're putting on object. Your base color tab right here is, there's a lot of things right here. For now, don't worry about any of that. Just pretend that all this stuff doesn't matter because it's just kind of scary. Base color. There's a file that goes into this. So the color of whatever file that you put in will go into your base texture. So click on the folder here for the file that goes into the base, and you can select whatever you want. So you go in, you find the folders where you saved the BRCvr toolkit or whatever texture you want to use. See how it changed it now? Now let's redo that and change it back. So you can see, so here's the base, the base properties of the material that is selected for this object right here. Everybody following along? This is the base texture, the base color slot where this decides what is color, how things are colored. And this is a file input. So you select this folder right here. Up. All right, and you can kind of see this file viewer right here. This is my desktop. And I go into, where do I want to find? There, I found the material I want. Click. And now it's back to that.
Sorry, I think I meant kind of like once you've got that baked shaded, the light shaded texture, like how do we save that out to bring into Unity?
That's actually a good question. Let's see how to. Okay. Where did I go to? Let's see. I believe. Let me get that info back. Let's see. Try to. It's supposed to save it onto a whatchamacallit, a folder in the project. It's not. It's here. Where is it saving? Having trouble finding this particular file where it's saving to, but we're on Discord right now. I can give you that specific info on where it's going to save and update you.
Awesome, yeah, thanks.
So, yeah, it's not, Blender's not exactly behaving quite the way I wanted to right now. I will find this file and I'll show you where it's saving to. Now, like I said, I know where these files get saved to when you do it in the Maya way, but.
Yeah, sometimes you have to specify an output, but I couldn't see a place to type in.
Yeah. So, all right, we're actually running close to 11 o'clock, and I think it's probably going to be a stretch to do another repeat of uploading to AltSpace. I think, I don't know, what do you think, Doug? You want to talk about how to throw an event right now?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't think these people are even thinking about events.
Yeah.
They're worried about.
I think we can do a few more minutes of Q&A. I think if we push.
Yeah, let's do an open season on Ask Greg Anything.
Yeah. I think we broached the subject of baking lighting, which is, you know, I've spent several $1,000s and 8 weeks at Noman learning what I was trying to push on you guys in an hour on a different software package. But basically that'll get you close to where you need to be.
So in a previous conference call, in Unity, you said go ahead and create a cube and basically give you the location of the entry point for the person.
Yep.
And I've done that. However, and I've uploaded to AltSpace, and I just went and looked at it, and yeah, if I spin around real quick, I can see my camp way up in the air above me. It almost seems like I'm not dropping where that cube is.
Interesting. And you haven't changed your spawn point. And then you haven't added a spawn point as a world builder?
No. What's a spawn point?
So you can do, all right, so let's just kind of, all right, so, okay, so you create a cube, but as you can see, I created a cube, but it's not dead center. You create a cube, you see, look, there's my world right here. Look, that cube is way down there. See, does that kind of look familiar for what you're, okay. Notice how I created that cube, but it didn't put it dead center.
Oh.
It's okay. I didn't quite. That was one of the things that I needed to be reminded last class. So this is dead circle 0 of our world. So when you put something here, put a cube, make sure it's dead centered 0. It's zeroed out right here. And then it's okay to move your entire project maybe just a foot or 2 below, so that when you instantiate when you start off and spawn in your world, you'll start here. Then you go into alt space and you go into your world building properties, and you spawn what's called a spawn point. And it's in your basic kits when you go into alt space. And then you select exactly where you want to spawn in. And then you just re-upload this and you delete that. So,
and with the spawn point, can you like set the rotation, or should you rotate your camp?
it depends on how that's something that we kind of want to play with a little bit more. I'm not sure if rotating the spawn point rotates how you face when you enter in. That's something that I could probably jump in and take a look at a little bit more. I think that would probably work. At the very least, if you are pointing 180 degrees from where you want, then just rotate your world 180 degrees in here.
Okay.
And that's probably a good way to do that.
Greg,
Yes?
with the cube, when you moved the world a couple of feet below it, did you just like select everything, deselect the cube, and lower the world?
Yeah.
Or
so the cube is here, and this is my world.
Okay.
I just moved that down a little bit. And make sure so you don't fall through the world. Like, this is a perfect example of a world that wouldn't work because something is missing from my ground.
Collider?
Yep. There you go. See? Mesh collider. Boom. Now, mesh colliders, they calculate a collider on all geometry in your world. So if you have like a 3 million polygon object, you're going to have 3 million different vertices for colliders, which can make things very inefficient. But if you're just on the ground, this only has like, I think this is pretty much just a flat plane. This is just one piece of geometry. Yeah. So mesh collider is fine. So
yeah, Cause was talking about using simple like rectangular polygons for things like the DJ booth.
Yeah.
That are much more complicated, but no one cares. It's just, can you walk through it or not?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that will keep the file much smaller. So I uploaded, I've been working on the thing I'm going to upload separately, but I was just trying to get my Unity to AltSpace workflow. And I was able to successfully upload something, but I couldn't find my cube at all. I just saw the horizon, that like the default Unity horizon and the ground.
Okay.
But you didn't. Maybe it was below the ground and I just couldn't see it down there. But
I know. Okay, I know an issue you might have. Depending on Blender or Maya, one thing you want to experiment with is when you bring your file into Unity, it's converting units, right? Check
well, I hadn't actually brought a file in it. I was just trying to get something from Unity in AltSpace to make sure I could do that.
I hear you. Okay. But this still stands, like if something seems too small, or you put something in and you assume that you would see it, but everything's too small, toggle this back and forth. With Blender or Maya, it's going to be one or the other. Everything's going to be within a unit of 100. So if something looks like it's 100 times too small or 100 times too big, change this and apply it. And this you select this by the base file that you bring into Unity. So if everything is together by 1FBX, click this.
Could you say that one more time? Your voice was breaking up very badly.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Like 2 sentences back.
So when you upload onto AltSpace, if your world is like 100 times too big or 100 times too small, this is the culprit right here.
Oh, okay.
Because every 3D package is going to start with their own scale. 3D Studio Max makes things huge, and you got to scale that down. Blender's close to Maya, but just take a look at here, and this will be a culprit on a lot of things. So,
thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else have any other questions? Yep, Gene. You're muted. You're muted, Gene. I can't hear you. Doug, is Doug still?
Yeah, when can we download the advanced toolkit? Is that ready for?
Yeah. 1 second. I will get that. That's okay. It is on our website. I have the direct.
Well, I went there yesterday and it only had the basic, but unless there's somewhere I couldn't find.
Okay. All right. Oh, here we go. Okay. Chat. Where's the chat?
Well, if you want to add that to Discord later on.
Okay, but I will put this on right here directly. So there. And I can give you guys a quick overview of that really quick. Let's see where's that. Here we go. Here's the link. Okay, coming in right here. Everybody, there you go.
Hey.
Now I'll give a quick overview of that. Let's see. Let's open up. I'll open that up really quick so I can give you guys kind of.
Also, just a note, whoever had that issue with not being able to see their cube, it's possible that the camera was inside of the cube, and the cube is generally, by default, pretty big. So you actually are like looking from inside the cube outwards, and so you can't see the cube.
That's a very good possibility right there.
Thank you.
There's going to be some trial and error with it, which is what we're trying to get everybody breaking through that mold. And also another thing is, I want everybody, once you get into AltSpace and get your first project in, where you can walk around, I want everybody to find somebody else in the community that is working on a project and talk to them and have any questions and help them out. So like I want, once you get something right, spread the word, help other people, help other projects. Gene?
Do we talk via Discord, or is there? Yeah. That's the main way of reaching out to people.
Yeah, it's kind of a good place for us.
Okay, good.
Okay, go ahead. Here we go. Okay, everybody still see my screen? All right. So this is, now that I've sent you. Oh, okay. So with the skyboxes, I have a couple that are ready to send out that are license free. Others are from a toolkit. I have about 20 different skyboxes that we are going to use, that I've kind of mixed and matched other assets that I paid for, and I'm just not quite sure how we release that to everybody without them paying for those assets. But we have a couple of skyboxes that are like high noon, sunset, nighttime, that we will be sending out to everybody that we can do that.
Question around that. Are we able to like go from day to night, or do we kind of have to pick a time?
So a good way to do that is when you go to when you go to make your alt space, you can, it's pretty easy once you build it ahead of time. So build out 3 different versions and put those in 3 different folders, you know, day, night, whatever, and then just update your template. Or there's another way where you bring it into as a kit and you just change it as world builder. You can change your backgrounds in AltSpace Live, and that'll be another way we can set things up too. So
when you update your template, does it update all the worlds you've created from that template automatically?
it just, yeah, it updates your world so that when people re-enter the world, it's changed, which we've been doing on and off for the past month, and it works pretty well.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I have another question about templates.
Yep.
I was just trying to understand the relationship between templates and worlds. So to have a world, you have to have a template, and then you load things from Unity into the template, which changes the world.
Okay.
Do you have a different template for every world, or?
Okay, so a template is the beginning of a world. So you upload a template, and that can be playa, that can be a bar, that can be a grassy meadow, but that's the start of a template. Now you can share that with other people, and they can make worlds out of that template. So it can be Lana's world, that is the grassy meadow, or Sky Knight or Jean's world. You know, they can base it off that template and make their own worlds with those templates.
But I guess just, yeah, I'm not even sure what my question is, but like, one thing, are all worlds shareable? I saw or I'm not, I know you can hide a world or have it like unlisted or whatever, but templates, I didn't see options for that. Maybe I was missing.
You share, it's easy to share it with your friends. So
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be a tab. Let me bring that up and I'll show that to you. So not AllSpice, AltSpace. Okay.
I guess like if I'm bringing in more project, will I need different templates for them?
Yeah. If you're doing different.
Okay.
You should be using Monday.com.
Shut up.
It's a platform.
Shut up, YouTube. Okay. All right. So let's kind of go over this pretty quick. Okay. So here's all my templates. All right. Now, one of the things we've been using for parties is, what do I call Charlie Party. That's the space with Charlie Unicorn, Pink Heart, the Dragonfly Art Car, and French Court. This is where I upload that template up, right? And here, and you can upload that file right here. Now, that template, I can share that with my producer, Doug, and he can not only build worlds using this template that I can update dynamically from here. If I update that, it automatically updates everything on his end. He can make a world out of that, and he can also create a private event with that template. So if you guys want to make a camp and then hold your own events, it all just cascades down when you update the template. So I don't know if that, and see right here, I shared I shared Charlie Party with Doug, and you can also do a lot of other different, see, I can share it with all my friends. I know every one of these people. I know everything about them. I am not totally confused at all about all the AltSpace friends that I have right now. But yeah, you can add a friend and share the template with them, and they can work with you. And you can make a creation and share it with them.
Yeah, that helps a lot. Thank you.
Okay. And then you can also, let's go into, I guess now that we're into, we can go a couple more minutes on AltSpace stuff. We're going to try to get AltSpace to give us a really good lecture on all the nuts and bolts, but I'm kind of just wanting to get you guys in and at least making the first mistakes and having your worlds in. So here are a list of all my worlds that I've created. I can create another world with, these are some featured and optimized and basic AltSpace templates. And these are all the ones that we've made. So you can make, if you want to have a presentation, you just go and you make the presentation page. Or I think Cards Against Humanity is in here somewhere. Holograms Against Reality. So you can make your own Holograms Against Humanity world using this already made template. It already works. And then you can also, since you're a world builder, you can add your own kit object. So you can put a Holograms Against Reality game with a bunch of polar bears everywhere. And you can do that in AltSpace. So that's kind of how that workflow works. So then you put the name, a description, an image that will go here that kind of shows people what it looks like. And then you have all these different default contextual roles. In your world, do you want people to be able to fly? Do you want people to be able to be a megaphone? Right here, so click this right here, it says, automatically grant one or more of these roles, music performer, pilot, terraformer, megaphone only in your world. So this is, if you don't want everybody to speak with a megaphone in your world, you leave that blank. If you want people to fly, you put pilot. And the default contextual role is right here. So this is kind of adds the behavior. And there's documentation of all the different roles you can have, but this is a good starter right here. Any other questions?
I have one more regarding Megaphone.
Okay.
If you are in a world and you turn on Megaphone, then people using Megaphone only, people who do not have their Megaphone on can't hear you, and vice versa?
There's a weird kind of bug where if you turn on Megaphone in a world, and I don't recommend that at a party, by the way. If you turn on Megaphone in a world and we're all going to go out somewhere, like on Playa Deep, you walk up to those people and you have Megaphone and they don't, you won't hear them. I don't know why. You have to turn off Megaphone. So it's kind of like if you're all alone in a world with friends, you all should turn on Megaphone, or you shouldn't. But I don't know why it turns off their audio if you.
Yeah, because I'm not sure it was always that way. I didn't notice that for a while, but yeah. So if you're telling Megaphone, you have to all do it at once.
I think it has something to do with if you turn on Megaphone here at this space and you guys all leave, somehow you've left their audio envelope. I don't know. It's something weird.
Okay.
It's a bug. I always have to turn it off and turn it back on or something like that.
Yeah, there's a couple of things but we also, just to have some people understand, we do use Megaphone, and Doug can go into this a little bit more detail. We use Megaphone as audio. So if we want to DJ stuff, we set up an audio bot to Megaphone, and that's how we're working music setups now, and it worked really well at Causes Play. So we'll be going into more details with that, but basically we're turning our avatar mouths into a DJ speaker.
Yeah, you need to make a DJ bot that you run your DJ audio through, and then you load it up on Windows. You need a Windows machine, maybe a Mac eventually, but and then you route the audio through your DJ bot. So you can load up a Twitch stream from a DJ and then broadcast that audio. You couldn't, and that's just the most efficient way to do it. Now, if you want to have a screen in your place of the Twitch stream, AltSpace is working on that. But you can put a screen up, but Twitch is crashing AltSpace for some reason. I don't know why.
Can you put an invitation link on for Discord for everybody?
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
So we answered a few more questions. Let me know if anybody else has any other quick questions. Gene? Still muted, Doug.
Is there a schedule of these workshops, because the Thursday one, which I looked at on YouTube, there was a gentleman, Todd, I believe his name is, who he said he would talk about baking. Is there a schedule, or should I go to the site? Where do I find out?
So we're going to set up a schedule tomorrow for the next upcoming weeks. Mostly I just wanted to go on to this before I set up what the classes were going to be next week. I wanted to get an understanding of this. So I think Tuesday and Thursday morning, Thursday evening is roughly the next two classes, but we're going to do a social media push.
Where do I go to find out?
Are you following us at BRCvr Facebook?
Yeah, we generally post on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Okay, I'll go there.
And in Discord.
Great. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Any other?
And hello, Gene.
Oh, Boulder.
A quick question. So once we get our world created and we have our template and everything seems to be working fairly well, what's the best way to kind of like share this out?
So our plan is between the 20th and the 30th, we're going to be getting everybody's low poly representation models, the 2,000 to 5,000 polygon frontage. We're going to be taking those models in and doing placement. And then we're going to have a system over those 10 days of you have your world, a member of our team will go into your world, check to make sure you're not falling to the ground and that it's fairly functional. And then we just put placement of our portals from your spot on Playa to your world. So that part is fairly easy to do. Once you have a project on AltSpace and a world that's developed on your own, and you have a model that represents your piece, and we have it applied, the connection, the programming between spaces is quite easy.
Okay.
Gene?
So we have two worlds. One world is what we teleport into, that can be high poly, relatively high poly, and another world just has the low poly stand-in.
Yeah,
and that's it.
And that's our world that we're building. And you just give us the FBX of that file.
Oh,
and then we put it all together. And if you can follow the BRCvr toolkit texture with and low poly with that frontage, your piece will go in a lot easier.
Got it.
We're trying to keep everybody as a base. We're trying to use that texture as a basis for everybody so that we can keep our poly count down.
Right, because Greg is going to try to put all this stuff on the main playa and not make the size of the main playa explode in size.
Yeah, it's a very tricky balance, but I think we have a plan. If we can educate everybody on exactly how we have it in mind, it'll work. But we also
and by the way, not every project needs a low poly thing. We could just have a portal to a place without having to have a low poly frontage. And a lot of places will be that too. We don't need everything to be represented as a thing on Playa. It could just be a portal. So.
Really quick question regarding that this topic. In terms of performance for the scene that we jump into, like what are some guidelines there in terms of poly count?
Okay, so poly count isn't as important as draw calls. So you can get away with like 250 to maybe 400 polygon count world, as long as you're not running too many objects. So like I've mentioned a couple of times, but the best way to think of it is you can have 10,000 RVs off of my kit in a world. If they're all separate objects, your world's not going to perform worth a damn. But if you take all those objects that are all from one texture map and you combine them all together, there's just 10,000 RVs that have just been turned into one object. And that is one object that the headset has to think about. So basis is few objects as possible in your world. Combine as much as you can. Anything that doesn't move, that isn't animated to move, that shares the same material, should all be combined as one object. And if you have it, because you can have maybe 200 objects in your world. That is including avatars.
Okay, so it sounds like the build target is also mobile. Like it should be supported on mobile headsets as well, or
yeah, you're building for a Quest.
Okay, got
it. So these are just the protocols that we're trying to make this as easy as possible for everybody to build that right sweet spot. That's what the toolkit is about. That's what that texture map is about. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're trying to get everybody to build, is that sweet spot that if everybody kind of falls in that area, most worlds should work. You can put 20,000 RVs in a world, and if you set it up right, it'll still work.
Cool.
Boulder?
So a question that'll tag off of that one. I just have been working on getting my existing models up to AltSpace and succeeded last night finally.
Yes.
But my batch count in Unity is like almost 4,000,
yep.
But it runs great on both my laptop and a Quest.
Oh,
so I'm a little confused with the numbers. It's huge compared to what you guys are talking about, but it runs great.
Okay. Have you done a headset check yet? Have you checked the frame rate in your headset? If you go to your display, your heads-up display, you can turn on your frames per second. And if it's just you and you're running at, I don't know, 30 frames a second, it's going to be okay if you have 10 people in. But if you have 60 people in your world, you're going to have a tough time, because if it drops down to like below 20 frames per second, people start getting off. So
okay.
Check in Unity, make sure you've combined everything right, and then in Unity, make sure your main object is checked static.
Right. Yeah, I've done none of that yet. I've just been trying to get it to upload because I had problems with the assembling packages or something like that. A couple of scripts, things like that. Like I had editor scripts that it was belching on, so it was just difficult getting something to upload.
Also,
good thing to note too.
Also, let everybody know AltSpace has like this automated check system that just kind of checks your performance of your world. And if you have like over this number of objects, they'll flag you as, okay, only 30 people can fit in this room. But if you surpass that, they'll put it up to 60.
Okay.
So if you just you just expect to have only 10 or few friends to hang out, if it runs, it runs, But if you want those 60 people, then, all right, Gene again.
Just a point of reference. We have about a half a dozen objects that are very complex. Each one has tens of thousands of polys, but it runs pretty well, runs smoothly. So I think the idea is if it's a self-contained object, it tries to figure out through graphics what to render. And if these things are pretty well contained, even though they're quite complex, it seems to run smoothly.
Yeah, if your headset doesn't have to constantly think about where the location is of all these thousands of objects, even if they're, I guess maybe think of it as people stressing out if I had 1,000 ants running around in this apartment right now, which I don't, but if I did, that would stress me out. But if there's one object that is just sitting there that I know I can see it, that's maybe that's not a good analogy, but basically if you have 100 little things that you have to keep track of every little the position, the rotation, that's calculation that the headset has to do internally, and that makes it slow down. So
I agree 100%.
Yeah, that's just what we're trying to. So build your camp, join the object, combine it if you're doing in Maya. I'm not sure what it is in 3D Max. Export it out, make things static, make sure there's a mesh collider on your ground, and that's a good start. And then from there, start experimenting. figure out the rules, then break them afterwards. So I think might have time for one more question, and then I think we're gonna wrap it up for the day. Do we need any?
Go enjoy your Saturday.
Yeah, enjoy your Saturday. While we.
All right, who's got it? Adele or Boulder? Boulder, Adele.
I'll do both. Okay, 2 more questions. 2 quick.
2 more questions. Go Boulder. You're go
Okay.
Boulder.
How do you share a world once it's created? I had a really hard time figuring that out last night. I had to like go to where I was at, and even then, like with a different friend's account, and then even then, I had a hard time. Like, had to fiddle around and favorite it eventually to even be able to get back to that world, to my world.
So until the AltSpace team kind of looks at something and make sure it's optimized, they kind of keep it as a beta world. So what you'll have to do is favorite it and then put portal, you know, do like a group portal. So
in your world settings, you can share it with your friends. You can go share world with friends, and then you could manually share it, and it'll show up on their things just for your friends, you know, immediately. But you're gonna have to open portals and lay down or have them go to you for now to get the word out.
Gotcha.
Adele?
Okay, thank you.
Adele?
Adele.
Yeah, so I came to last night's party, and but I had a lot of so I'm using a Vive Pro and a machine with a 1070, but the world kept freezing for me, so I would like hear sounds and then it would freeze.
Right.
Wondering like what.
Cause wanted to push it to the limit, so we had a lot of people wearing tails, MREs, plus the light stick MREs, plus 60 people was shoving. So he just started deleting the tails and sort of pulling it back and seeing where the frame rate on our Oculus was going up. So it got a little more stabilized, but I think he was pushing it to the limit for sure with so many, and also interactable drinks.
Yeah, we were on everybody last night.
How were you deleting those things while the event was going on? Were people?
Well, they're not. They're called MRE. You know, they're on his server. They're running off of his server, so you can just disable them. They're objects that load after the world loads. They're interactable objects, and those interactable objects, they're like the fire sticks and the glow things and the tails you pick. Those are all called. Those are interactables that he built and loads off his own server after the fact. And those things were everybody was using all of those. And so it was doubling the objects in the room. So he had to like delete some of those live.
All right. Any other questions? Are we good to go? All right. Enjoy your Saturday.
Thank you.
Get creative, have fun. And then, be sure to, if you've joined the Discord, throw some suggestions of things you want to learn, because it's kind of where we're trying to wrap things up this week of questions that people need for production. And then we're kind of hoping that this will organically turn into a community of people helping each other out and showing each other the ways. We're just trying to push people off the pier and get them swimming. So leave some notes on what you'd like to learn on the Discord, and we will start figuring out our next class schedules.
Yeah, we'll see you there. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.